Like to say hi once again to all our Facebook friends. As you can see, we're here in the studio today. I know we go out and record all these great things out in the outdoors, but this is where we come back to put it all together. I have a special guest today, Ogemaw Russo. He's president of the Tourism Association in Ogemaw County. And Ogemaw, I'm glad you're joining us today. And I'd just like to ask you something about the fishing in your area. I know when people go on vacation, one of the ways to really relax is to get out and do a little bit of fishing. And I understand that West Branch has some pretty good spots.
Well, I'll tell you what, West Branch has some of the best inland fishing in the area. You know, we have 7 lakes that are easy to access, get in, get out quickly. There's also a handful of these little private lakes here and there that you have to know someone on the lake or be part of the association to get into. But the fishing is just dynamite right now. Doesn't matter where you go, what you're targeting. You have some good fishing, and with this hot weather that we've had, that's brought a lot of the bait fish closer to the top and into the shallows. That's where all those predator fish we're trying to catch, are chasing.
What about, how many lakes have you actually got in rivers in the area?
Well, you know, we're known for our Rifle River Rec area for the trout fishing. The brown trout fishery there is spectacular. You get a lot of brookies in there, some rainbows. But the biggest thing I hear is people targeting the brown trout specifically. And one of the big things about them is you definitely have to have your mosquito net on, and you have your at least your hip boots or waders. But you get into some of these creeks, especially just north of West Branch, and going up into and just north of the Rifle River Rec area. These guys are catching their limit almost every day. And it's just about on everything from flies to little grubs and the little waxies that they use, to different artificial baits with spinners. And it's funny because when I was talking to a DNR officer last week up there, he was telling me we were looking at this creek and it was maybe a foot deep, maybe 2 feet deep. But he's like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's trout here, trout there. And believe it or not, you stop and they take off, would never have known it. So some of these people that are really good at it, if you know somebody that's been there, ask a few questions. They'll give you some great pointers.
Okay, so we've got quite a few lakes right there in the recreation area, but we also have some other lakes around in the county too.
Well, you know, one thing that a lot of people don't know is these lakes are stocked by the DNR. And there's different books and articles that you can find even online that talks about the stocking data. So, you know, for example, Clear Lake, deep lake, not a big lake, but there's a 40-foot hole right in the middle of it that they catch some big walleye. And I've, until recently, I've been unsuccessful until I started jigging. And so every lake has their own little tweaks to it that you need to adjust for that area. But for Clear Lake, jigging for walleye out in that deep area is definitely a great area. Over on Asabo Lake, for example, you know, if you stay in the shallows by the reeds and whatnot, pike are unbelievably active right now. And most of your fishery, especially on those hot days, are happening, you know, early morning or late night. But we're seeing, I mean, we were catching bass at 11:30 in the afternoon on these hot days. And I mean, we're probably only bringing in a third of what we're catching because they come out of that water so fast, throwing that hook, immediately gets the blood going, and you're looking for the next opportunity. So cruising those coastlines, especially on those weed breaks, definitely a big thing. Over on Rifle Lake, for example, I know some guys are targeting muskies. That's been stacked with muskies, a little bit of a secret for the county. You know, not a lot of people know that, but there's a muskie fishery there. And for those that don't know the difference, you really got to take a look between a northern pike and a tiger muskie because the stripes are going in a different direction. So where the tiger muskies are up and down and pike have a little bit of a horizontal little mark on them. A big difference, especially on these juvenile muskies. You got to take a real good look and make sure you know what you're catching and if they're legal.
Now, are most of the lakes that you have there easily accessible? What size boats can you get on them?
Well, you know, I'm not going to say great big boats, but, you know, anything bigger than a 26, 28 footer, you're probably going to have a little bit of a tough time, especially depending on where you go. So a lot of these lakes are great for your 12, 14 footers. I have a 16-foot boat, so I have no trouble at all getting in and out of these lakes. The cool thing is, especially with some of the family and the grandkids getting old enough to fish, you can get into some of these shallows and on some of these weed breaks and panfish all day and just have nonstop action. And it's funny that, you know, we just went through the mayfly hatch on some of the rivers, and some of these aquatic insects coming to the surface. So those fish are actually looking up. So everything from topwater baits for bass, being jitterbugs and poppers, to basically just worm and hook and bobber for the panfish, everything seems to be really hot right now. So I hear a lot of success stories. I haven't heard anybody getting skunked lately, and that's a big thing because, you know, they always say it's more fun fishing when you catch fish.
Now, I suppose a lot of these lakes too are easily accessible in canoes and kayaks, so you don't have to have a big boat to go out there and do some of this kind of fishing.
No, you don't. And when I was talking earlier about some of these little inland lakes without that big boat access, you can see where the canoe travels down the bank and into them, especially out in the Rifle River wreck area. Their area is non-motorized. So you see a lot of fishing kayaks, which are kind of cool when you see they get a big fish on there, and I don't know if they're struggling, if they're having fun. One way or another, it's always exciting to watch because you never know what they're getting in when that pole bends right down and to the water, and they are kind of, I wouldn't say panicking, but they're doing their job and keeping that fish on the line to get them in. And you see that quite a bit out, like say in the wreck area, mostly because, you know, it's a non-motorized lakes out there, but from the fishing, from the kayaks and canoes, you see that a little bit more often. And like say these smaller lakes that are not well fished, but there's certainly a ton of action.
Now, what about people that maybe just don't have a boat? And is there places that they can take and go out to and fish offshore, take the kids with them, and just stand along a bank and catch fish?
There's quite a few places. And again, if you are coming up and you are fishing, don't forget either your screen hats for mosquitoes or having some type of repellent, because all along those shorelines, there's a lot of good fishing. You know, the panfish have moved just a little bit deeper. You know, they're just getting off their beds, so that spawn has been completed now. So, you know, you're seeing panfish in a little bit of deeper water during the day, but again, back up in the shallows. So if you're first fishing early or late, that shore fishing always has something to offer.
Now, for people that come up, maybe not knowing the area too well, how can they get more information to tell them where they can stay, where to eat, and the places to go to fish?
Well, if you're a Facebook user, you definitely want to go to the West Branch Visitors Bureau website, either on the internet or go to the Facebook page. We also have the West Branch app, so visit westbranch.com. You can download the app that gives you all the information, not only for the businesses in the area, some of the fishing data, bait shops, and marinas. And again, you know, there's a ton of information out there. And if you're in the area, you know, don't be afraid to stop by a business to ask a couple questions, because, you know, the people in this area are very passionate about what we have to offer.
Ogemaw, I want to thank you for spending the time with us to give us some information on all the great fishing there is there. I think that people should know, too, West Branch is not far away. It's an easy drive up there. I know when you go there, you're going to enjoy yourself, because I do every time I'm there. Thank you, Ogemaw. Appreciate you joining us.
Take care.